I want to go through the three buckets: Manhattan, Georgia, the feds. Relative to Manhattan, March 25th, is that a firm date? Will it really happen? And does he need to be in the courtroom?
So, Michael, I would say that's a semi-firm date. Usually when a judge sets a trial date in a criminal case, you would write it in your date book in pencil. Things happen. Defendants often ask for more time. Prosecutors sometimes find new evidence and say, we need more time. But this judge, Judge Merchan, made a point this week of telling the parties, put this date down. Do not schedule anything around it. Be ready to go to trial. But I do want to highlight there's a possibility Trump may go to the federal courts and say, you need to push this date back because, as you said, Michael, this is going to fall right in the middle of the Republican primaries. And Trump's going to argue, I'm a candidate for federal office. I have a First Amendment right to free speech to run for office. And to take me out for several weeks where I have to sit in a courtroom is going to interfere with that right. So I think that trial is conspicuously timed. And I think there's a chance Trump may try to get it changed.
You know that the Washington Post and New York Times, I should say even the Washington Post and New York Times, used words like novel to describe the theory by which this misclassification was elevated to a felony. When does Donald Trump litigate that issue, before or after trial?
Both, Michael. He is certainly going to bring a motion to the judge before trial and say, this theory under which the charge here is a misdemeanor of falsifying business records. It only gets boosted up to a felony if the records were falsified to promote some other crime. And here the theory is the other crime appears to be interference with the federal election, a federal campaign violation, but we're in state court. So that's the novelty here that could be challenged before trial. And if it goes to trial and he's convicted, Trump will appeal on that basis. And one important thing to keep in mind here, Michael, even if this trial goes off in March, and I think it will carry certainly into April, Trump is not going to be sentenced for several months after that. And even if he is sentenced to prison, which I think is unlikely given the nature of the charges here and given the way New York state law works, even if he's convicted, he's not going to get sentenced to prison in all likelihood. And even then, even if he's sentenced to prison, he's not going to actually have to start serving his sentence until after his appeals are done, which certainly will carry way beyond the November 2024 election.
Let's go to Georgia now. You heard me say in the setup that I think Fani Willis has tipped her hand. You agree with me?
I agree with you in more. She's not just tipped her hand. That suggests some inadvertence. I think she has turned her hand around, put it in front of the public cameras, and hyped this thing up like it's a summer movie blockbuster, and with about the same level of subtlety. There is little question. There is no question in my mind that Fani Willis has every intention to indict Donald Trump later this summer, July or August. She has made that entirely clear by her very public letters, not so subtle letters, to the sheriff and to other local authorities. And I think the question is, will the nature of those charges, which are going to be very different, going to go to the attempt to steal the 2020 election, will they be received differently in the political world than the Manhattan DA's charges?
Right. I mean, you heard me make the case that I think that Alvin Bragg thus far has helped Donald Trump fundraising, the poll numbers. Nothing else explains how Trump in the last 60 days has increased his lead over DeSantis. Okay, let me ask this question because we're about to get to Jack Smith and Merrick Garland. Do you think that someone from DOJ is on the horn with Fani Willis or has been on the horn with Alvin Bragg? Any type of coordination between the three buckets, as I put them?
So there's no indication of any communication or coordination between those three prosecutors. But Michael, it's important to understand, ordinarily, you would absolutely pick up the phone if you were any of these three prosecutors and you found out another prosecutor's office was looking at the same person of you. We do that all the time as prosecutors. I did that when I was a federal prosecutor calling over to the state and vice versa. There's even a name for this process. It's called deconfliction. It is the most common thing in the world. You pick up the phone, you go, hey, I hear you're looking at the same person as us. Where are you in your case? Should we share our witnesses? Should we share our evidence? Should we work this together? Are we going to do this separate? Who's going to go first? There's no indication that's happened here. I think the prosecutors are wary of creating an appearance that they're coordinating. I think they don't want to be subject to that attack by Donald Trump, and you know it would come. But I think they are intentionally not dialing up each other's numbers.
Okay, so to recap, there's a trial date with regard to Alvin Bragg. We both think that Fani Willis is going to indict Donald Trump this summer. Relative to Merrick Garland and Jack Smith, how about the issue of, we always hear about that timetable close to an election, don't go doing anything that will impact the outcome of an election. Are Smith and Garland going to be up against that window?
They are, Michael. And I think DOJ deserves some blame here because by taking this long, by taking 2.5+ years to get around to any of this, they've played themselves into a calendar corner because there is longstanding DOJ policy and practice that you do not take actions within, depending who you ask, 60 or 90 days of an election. The big picture idea there is, as prosecutors, we try to avoid making moves that are going to land in the public sector and have political impacts too close to an election. If we do the calendar math here, even if DOJ brings an indictment, either on Mar-a-Lago or January 6th this summer, which is, we are in the summer now, realistically, you are not going to be able to get to a trial through all the discovery, through all the appeals until at least a year from now. That puts us in the summer of 2024, which, according to DOJ practice, is really pretty darn close, arguably too close to the general election, especially when the defendant is one of the candidates.
Okay, Ellie, final thought then, little game theory here. It sounds like it's possible that the only case that could get to trial, big if, there are actually 3 cases, is the Alvin Bragg Stormy Daniels case, where we've seen in the last couple of months, it's arguably to the benefit of Donald Trump. Theoretically, Trump could get a trial date in the midst of the primary season and regardless of the outcome, have some wind at his sails, and the other 2 cases don't get resolved until after the 2024 election. True?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. This is the world we are living in, Michael, where we could have a leading candidate, perhaps a presumptive nominee for the presidency, on criminal trial just a few months before the actual election. We could have 2 other pending indictments that are sitting there unresolved without a trial on the date of the election. Then if Trump wins or if a Republican wins, we could be looking at the potential for pardons. We could be looking, there's no way he's going to be tried if he wins and he goes back into office. He's not going to get tried while he's in office. And if he loses, then the question is, well, are we going to have these trials in 2025 after he's lost 2 elections now? So there's a lot of different variables at play. We are heading into historically unprecedented territory.